information. So, happy Wednesday. Remember, guys, we do this every single Wednesday at noon Eastern. We talk about products and concepts and all fun things financial. So if your team isn't on, you might want to let them know and remind them. We put it out on our WhatsApp chats and things like that. But you guys put it in your calendar as well. I am hosting, Zach and I are hosting for Jody today because he is in Arizona at a Nexus. And he was like, can you run tomorrow? I was like, oh, you're playing golf? He's like, no, Kimberly, I'm not playing golf. I was like, okay, sure, I'll run tomorrow. He says he's not playing golf, so I'm sure he is going to a basketball game though. So, but Tim, why don't you give us the update on all things economic in the world today?
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at. Thanks,
Yeah,
Kimberly. Yeah, a lot going on. I talked to Paul the other day. It was an interesting conversation.
I'm curious to hear.
Um, yeah, it's kind of a crazy world. It seems like it's always a crazy world we live in. I think even local, wherever you live, isn't it interesting when you turn on the news? It's almost like I avoid the local news anymore because somebody's always, it seems like it's always bad news. So, I try to focus on some of the good news, but it seems like there's always it's a counterbalance kind of thing that's going on in our world on the market side. But right now, obviously, we've hit some unbelievable highs. Since this Trump President-elect Donald Trump has come in, there's a lot of business euphoria going on because of somebody like his administration is going to come in and really just annihilate some of the policies and cut some of the red tape around the businesses in that area. And now it looks like they're going to have control of both houses, and I mean the Senate and the House, and obviously um, the presidency. So they're going to have not complete control. It's going to be tricky. So they're not going to be easily to get things through, but they're going to have some control to get some of the policies through that he talked about. So we're going to see some interesting things take place. Lately, the Dow has been a little bit, Zach and Kimberly, you've probably watched this trend going on that we've seen the markets, from their euphoria of the Trump trades, they call it, have really pulled back lately. We've seen, I see this as an important, there's some things going on out there that are kind of important to watch from my perspective, especially when you see something like Target, which is what I call that's an indicator, that Target trade out there, because a lot of people, middle America, shop at Target because it's a discounter, so to speak. It's different than a Nordstrom's or, a high-end kind of store. They missed their earnings pretty big. It was expected around $2.30 a share, and they came in at $1.85. So their shares dropped 20% this morning. So that's a pretty big miss. And so that's kind of reeling the market right now. And then NVIDIA, I think we talked about this last week. NVIDIA's earnings are coming out today after the close, and that's going to be closely watched. NVIDIA is really amazing if you think about what they've done. They're $3.6 trillion capitalization company. They are huge what they've done just over the last 10 years. If you think where they've come from and where they've gone, and there's a lot of people trading that stock. And I mean, I remember this about 10 years ago that this stock was nothing. It was a little darling that a couple of people talked about, you ought to buy the stock, and it was nothing back then. I mean, you could have bought it for a song. And now it's trading it's had a few splits. But so the earnings are going to come out tonight. They have a new chip called, I think it's called Blackwell, and they've had some problems on it. But there's so much money now in this stock that if they have one hiccup, it's going to send the whole AI sector and NASDAQ into a tailspin. So that could be a catalyst to what Paul Dietrich has been talking about in his newsletters and his market commentary, that we're going to see, a correction in the market. We don't know what that correction is, but it's going to happen at some point. We just can't continue. As we all know, I've watched this for over 40 years. I got in the market, been watching it actually since 1976, before a lot of people on here probably were born. So having that long of a perspective, you kind of see how things, operate, and that corrections are going to come. I can't impress upon everybody how unusual of a time we've been through. I remember when I think I talked about this once before. My parents bought a house, and interest rates were in that 3.74% range, and we never thought we'd see that again. And sure enough, when we went through the 08, 09 Great Recession, interest rates basically went to zero. We saw people refinancing their homes in 2.5, 2.3, 2.8. And so that, when you have those kind of mortgage rates, that pretty much freezes up that whole real estate mortgage market. And we've seen, a massive freeze going on in the mortgage market and in the new house. People are still building homes and that, but you've really seen an adjustment there that it's going to be slow to get that whole market back up again, especially where interest rates are. I just did, in my market commentary I do on a daily basis. I haven't done it today yet. I was kind of waiting to see what happens. That the current average now, obviously you can still get rates in the mid 6.5 rate, but average mortgage qualifying rates right now is 7.04% across the country for just the average person going in. You can, like I said, you can get about 6.6, 6.5 if you're lucky, but that's really dampening that whole market. So if you think about this, what are the triggers? Well, back in '01 and '02, kind of when that whole recession hit, there were no triggers, and it was just accumulation of pressure going on from all sides, and that could happen. I think it's going to be the commercial real estate. When we have rates up this high, I think commercial real estate could be one of the big problems. All it takes is a number of these big office buildings just saying, look, the math just doesn't work anymore. We're going to give the building back to the bank or whoever owns it. And we see that happen across big cities around the country, like San Francisco, New York, LA, San Diego, Denver, Dallas. When you start seeing those kind of things happen, then we're going to see a crumbling of all this real estate property. And on a commercial basis, that could be the things that pulls the market all down. And then if you have Nvidia start to fall apart on top of that, I think we could see a 35, 45% drop in all the markets across the board. So that's kind of what I see is potentially out there. And then the backdrop of this is we've got this geopolitical stuff going on with the Russia-Ukraine war. I mean, you got to think that Putin thought this thing was going to be over in 3 to 4 weeks, and no one thought that this was going to go on this long. I mean, we're into the years under this thing now. And recently, the current administration, the Biden administration, okayed Ukraine sending long-range missiles into Russia and attack them. And Putin just made another threat saying, you just raised our ability to, let me use a phrase that we use, DEFCON 3, to use nuclear weapons, strategic nuclear weapons against Ukraine. If that means that we got to protect ourselves, from protect our society or our country, they're going to use them. And if we keep allowing Ukraine and we keep feeding them these kind of weapons, I think that raises that heightens that possibility of them using a tactical nuclear weapon, which who knows what that could cause. That could set off reaction in the markets as well. Plus, I mean, the damage it does to people's lives on top of that. So, I mean, there's a lot of things going on here. We're at the peak in the market, and at some point, something's going to trigger it. Now, I want to talk about one other thing, Kimberly, that I think is important for all of us to recognize is, when we're out talking to people, is the American dream still the American dream? I mean, there's a lot of people that we talk to. Adam, and you know what I'm talking about, James, John,
Yep.
a lot of people on here. You know what I mean is when we talk to people out there, is the American dream still a possibility in people's minds? Because, if they have a job, are they happy in their job? According to recent research, 53% of those they polled still believe that the American dream is possible. And especially immigrants coming here, they have even a higher belief that the American dream is possible. It's better than the countries that they're coming from. And so that's kind of the thing I feel like we're selling. Got all this stuff going on in the backdrop in these markets that I talk about every day. But also, I think that, what we have is a system, a process. And I mean, you all talk about it, Kimberly and Zach. And Zach, I know you're working with WFS, and I'm working along with you on that. But we have this unbelievable system that we've built and has honed in over years and years that we can give somebody. I mean, we're talking about $199. It's a joke, really, if you think about it, that we can give somebody this system, this process, coaching, training, and leadership, all these people that help them. I've never seen people that can make $500,000 in 2 or 3 years if you commit yourself, put your chips in the middle of the table and work the system. I mean, it really is incredible. So, so I think when you think about all this and the people out there that want to believe that there is an American dream and we can show them a pathway to get there, I think it's pretty incredible. So that's my speech for the day. That's my market assessment. Any questions I can answer while I'm here? I'm wide open. I've been doing a lot of reading this morning, a lot of discussion with a few people, and Paul's going to be coming out with his market commentary very shortly. He told me so. Keep your eyes open for
I
that.
assumed he'd probably, after the election, put something out,
Yep,
and say what's, the the fate of the world at the moment in his eyes and his opinion. So I'll look forward to seeing that. And obviously, we always appreciate your commentary every single week. I agree with you that, first of all, as Americans, as people, humans here, we have to be able to dream and we have to continue to dream. And I agree with you. I don't think there's anything else in the world like our company, our opportunity, to give people the option, to succeed. And that's a big, big deal. And, it's a big weight we should all have on our shoulders to tell everyone, to go out and spread the message.
exactly.
Yeah, and to the stock market in and of itself, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that if you hang your thoughts of success on what's happening in the market and understanding that, you're really kind of missing the boat around you, because there are so many people, average Americans, that if the market were to crash tomorrow, they wouldn't feel it because they don't have assets in the market. That we need to be out helping people put those plans together. I was looking a little bit ago. Right now, 50% of the valuation of the U.S. stock market is owned by the top 1% of Americans. So half of the value of what's roller coastering up and down and what's going back and forth, half of that money belongs to the top 1%. The bottom 50% of Americans, when it comes to earnings or net worth, collectively own 1% of the value of the stock market. So that means that other 49% owns 49%, right? That's the group that really needs our help. That's the ones that we need to be out there talking to them about their personal economy, because yes, a stock market shift is going to be felt across the board, whatever that is. But there's a reason they call it a correction, and that is that it corrects the ability for the market to function naturally, for the valuations of these companies to be accurate. and not to be chased like the NVIDIA, like Tim's talking about. Those kind of things. I mean, maybe it is that valuable, but when that shifts, or when the game seems to settle out like it has in all the other major booms that we've seen, one or two major players will rise and stay to the top, and a lot of startups and a lot of money that's been invested in those kind of things will correct. It will adjust. And so keeping it simple for our clients and talking to them about their personal economy and what they can do to actually make their lives better on a day-to-day basis is what we need to be giving them, that hope and that opportunity of income coming in, of taking the assets they currently have and protecting them against volatility, that flight to safety, like we talk about a lot of the time. We are in a perfect place right now. Like Tim's talked about refinancing your retirement. You know, when you're in a situation where the mortgage rates are low, refinancing your home is a big boom. I want my payment to go down, all those kinds of, when you're in an interest rate environment where the rates are high, that's a great time to refinance or go into an annuity with guarantees that are better than they are when interest rates are low. There's so many opportunities to make a change now that we need to be talking about. And so that's for this call. What's the point, right? That's what we want you guys to be armed with, not necessarily expertise, but talking points and understanding of what we offer the marketplace and how you can articulate that to get them to a BOP, to get them to a sit down kneecap to kneecap with you, or with you and your trainer, or wherever you fall in that hierarchy of people delivering the message. So we'll talk about that. We'll kind of transition from there. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it very much. And
Thanks, everybody.
There's like Tim said, there's a lot going on. A lot going on out there in the world, and we have to be able to identify the things we can control and the things that we can't. And we need to be aware and know what's going on so that we can talk about those things intelligently, but also to sit and stare at the inevitable, or what we think might be inevitable. We can worry about, what's going to happen tomorrow, but ultimately we don't know. So what we can do is focus on today and make a plan down the road for us and our clients that's self-completing, right? We have life insurance, we have investments, we have all these things. So if you make it to retirement, guess what? Our plan's going to be working. It's going to work for you, and we're going to have it set up. If you don't, your plan is self-completing because of the life insurance piece. So your family's going to be in good shape without you to provide for them financially. So anyway, that's kind of the market commentary. So we don't know. Paul will probably say a lot of the same thing when his commentary comes out, is that we just don't know. We know there are a lot of things, and remember the difference between the market going up and the underlying economy thriving, where people are buying and things like that. So with the market going up and seeing Target's earnings down, like Tim said, that's an indicator that those two things are heading in opposite directions, which usually means there's going to be a change. There's going to be a shift in the overall market performance based on the undertones of the economy that we're seeing happen. So
Thank you.
yeah, here we go.
I saw Jody pop on for a second. I know his camera's off again. I know you guys think I'm Jody today. But Jody, if you want to speak, now's your time. If you don't want to speak, I'm gonna continue. Okay. Well, we're going to assume that he doesn't want to speak at the moment. He can interrupt me later if he would like to. He is currently in Arizona at Annex's headquarters. He said he's not playing golf, but I'm pretty sure when
Kimberly?
I'm pretty sure I saw when he
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm pretty sure that's a golf course.
Look at this. We got Rob here and his
Hi.
son here.
Yeah,
Look,
see,
these
golf, I
guys are
told
our
y'all.
superstars. Yeah, these are our great leadership team, and we got a Nexus in the background right here. That's the headquarters.
Beautiful.
So we're viewing it from 18 different places.
Enjoy.
Better those golf holes. So anything you want to say to the team?
Hey, just thank you for everything you've done so far, and let's keep it going.
Absolutely. Hey guys, these guys are totally committed to help in every way.
Good to see you guys.
So we're ready to roll. So thank you.
It's contingent on my invitation to Arizona. You knew that.
Say it's contingent on production. That's what they'll say. All right. See you guys. I'll be listening.
Good to see you guys.
Bye. All right. I see someone has their hand raised. I don't know if they mean to or they don't mean to. So if you mean to, unmute yourself now. If you don't mean to, then we're good to go. So, okay, so today's conversation is really, it was inspired by Gail Ames in St. Louis and also Matt Salvatore with Corbridge. Matt came to St. Louis and did kind of a kickoff for us for that area and for that event. A lot of you guys were there. Obviously, some of you weren't. But one of the things that he said during training that day I thought was really interesting and really important. And it's not rocket science, but it's a way that I'd never really thought about that before. So you guys that know me know I'm a big believer in a full financial needs analysis, right? We call that the F&A. And I believe that as many times as possible, you should gather all of the information so you can give them an educated plan for everything, but also so you can, help them with everything, not just a little term policy or whatever they think they're coming to you for. You can really give them that advice. But so many times when I sit down with families or I sit down with people and ask them what their goals and dreams are, for a lot of them, it is to plan for their kids' college education, right? And of course, everybody wants to pay for their kids' college, or most people want to pay for their kids' college, and they want to make sure that when their kids graduate, they don't have any financial debt, things like that. And I understand that completely, but they do so at the expense of their retirement. And that's the part that doesn't make sense to me. So if they can only afford to set aside $500 a month and they'd rather split it between their two kids and their education plans, how are you going to retire? And I always tell the parents it is much more expensive for you to plan or for your kids to pay for your retirement than it is for them to pay for their education. So if they have to get student loans, if they have to do something like that, I promise you it's a lot cheaper for them to pay those student loans back than it is to support you during retirement because you didn't properly plan. A lot of times people hear me and people understand and people believe me. Sometimes they don't, right? Because people are stubborn. And with money, it is not math. It should be, right? Money is only mathematical. But for all of us, and most people in the world, it's really emotional. And we can't separate the two. We can't take the emotions out of money. We just continue to look at the emotional side of it instead of the mathematical side of it. So is there a way we can do both? Is there a way we can plan for college education and we can plan for parents' retirement simultaneously? And the answer is yes. So a lot of times you guys come to me, I know, and I'm sure to everyone, about doing IULs on kids because it is a great idea, right? It's better than a 529 plan or something like that, in my opinion, because of the tax strategies on the back end. Like I know 529s are tax-free as long as you use it for qualified educational expenses. But what if your kids don't go to college, right? What if they don't go? You have no idea. What if your kids don't go to college? Then you're stuck in the situation of how do I transfer this to them and where do we put it? How do we invest it? Do we roll it over to an IRA? Like what are my choices at this point in time? And you have a lot more flexibility for your IUL. So I definitely think that that's a great idea, but not at the expense of planning for your retirement. So if someone only has $500 a month to set aside, instead of putting it into their kids' IUL, if they put it into their IUL, they can borrow from that later, right, at college time, and they can go into that planning. So I just want to look at a couple of different scenarios with you guys. I'm actually going to run illustrations with you, as much as you may love or hate that. And I'm in Corbridge. We'll give it to Matt today because he's the one that had this conversation most recently. So let me get this pulled up and then we'll go in and we'll run some illustrations and we'll just look at them together because I think it's important to see numbers too, right? We can talk concepts all day long, but if you don't see actual numbers, maybe it doesn't make sense. So let me share my screen with all of you lovely people. And if you guys have questions as we go, you can just stop me and we can answer it. So inside Corbridge, super easy. We start a new case, HGI, we're going to do Imperial Plus, and we're going to create a client. Gail, I think I saw you hop back on. We'll say that Gail is the client. Gail is the client.
Yes,
Give
I'm
me
here.
a birth date. Play with me. Give me a birth date here.
7/6. We'll say 81 instead of 71.
0706 1981.
Sure.
You are 43. So remember how much you can afford to set aside. Super healthy. We'll say that you're in Alabama. So on here, obviously we just put in their demographic information. This is where we would change it based on health rating or what we assume the health rating is going to be. But we're going to solve for, I always do no solve, interface and premium, and leave it that way. And then on the face amount, I always do no violation minimum face. That means I'm going to have the least amount of death benefit necessary to hold the amount of money that I want to put in. The death benefit's what keeps the money inside that tax-free. So we don't want to overflow that, right? We want to make sure that we are within the rules, but we also don't want such a large death benefit that the money inside that isn't performing because we're just paying for cost of insurance. So
That's why we bundle with a term policy.
it is, yes. We bundle with the term to give them the death benefit protection, but also obviously to the cost savings of a term. So Gail, how much are you putting away on a monthly basis?
Let's say $1,000 a month.
All right, so let's say $1,000 a month. And originally when we had this conversation, Gail's my guinea pig here, right? Originally when we had this conversation, you wanted to do $500 a month to your personal plan and $250 to each of your kids, right? For their 529s or IULs or whatever we're going to do.
Right,
so
right.
I convinced you to put away $1,000 a month. So now we're going to change this here. We're going to say $1,000 a month. And if you guys click on this little calculator, I always like to flip it to age because it just is easier for me to see. How many years are you going to pay $1,000 a month?
Till 65.
To 65. Okay. So at age 65, and then from 66 forward, she's going to pay nothing. So I'm going to change this 9,000 to 0, right? Index strategy for illustrative purposes, I just leave it where it populates. You can change it if you want to. But now we're going to plan for disbursements. We want disbursements. Oh, sorry, let me go back. I don't know how to go back. I can't. Let's see. I'm just kidding. Anyway, I clicked the calendar again, right? So we want disbursements. When do your kids go to college?
In we'll say 10 years.
Okay, so when you're 43, your kids go to college. And so we don't want
53. I'm 43 now.
Yeah, that's what I meant. 53. So we don't want any disbursements between 43 and 53. From 54 till, let's just say they're twins. So 54 to 58.
Yes.
So for 4 years, we're going to pull how much out?
Let's say 50,000 a year.
We're going to pull 50,000 a year out to send my kids to college, right? After that, we're going to turn my money back off. And then when do you want to start your personal disbursements for retirement?
Yeah, hopefully at 65. So
okay, so we're gonna turn off disbursements from 59 to 65, and then at 66, we're gonna turn them back on from 66 to
90.
90.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, let me fix that really quick. I had to let somebody in. So from 66 to 90, we're going to solve for max. That means the max amount of income Gail can get on an annual basis in her checking account, pulling from this policy as a tax-free loan for her retirement supplemental income piece, right? Does that make sense? So let me explain to you guys what this little chart looks like again. These are disbursements. From 43 to 53, she's taking no money out of the policy. From 54 to 58, she's taking $50,000 a year out of the policy because she's sending her kids to college. Then from 59 to 65, she's taking nothing out. And then from 66 to 90, she's pulling out her income stream, whatever that is. And then 91 through however long she lives, we're not pulling out anything. I always like to change this target surrender value at distribution or at the very end of the day. I like to just bump it to 1,000. You can leave it at age 121, or you can say, Gail's like, I'm not living past 100. Okay, great. I'll put it at 100, right? And change that there. So policy options. I A lot of times I will run it both ways, increasing and level, just to see what it looks like. We're going to leave it as increasing right now. And then remember, we're paying that $1,000 a month, not $1,000 a year. So we're going to change this now to monthly, and we're paying this information monthly. We are going to apply for a term at the same time, but I'm not going to do that inside this illustration right now for you guys. But just remember, at Corbridge, you can apply for a term at the same time that you apply for your IUL. And it's all inclusive in one application, which is pretty awesome. If you wanted to add any riders, it's here. But ultimately, we're going to calculate it. We're just going to see what this looks like. I haven't run it before. This is brand new. So we're running it right now together to see how much income they could have. Because I think it's, oh, just kidding. We're not running anything. All right. Illustration notes carry longer 20 years. So that it doesn't work that way in this particular example. So we're going to fix it right now.
Maybe change my age, because when I ran this illustration, it was on a 30-year-old. So
Okay. That's probably true, because if you pull out 50,000 a year, you probably, obviously, if you only put in 12,000 a month, then
it's not gonna be enough. Not
times
gonna,
10, you put 120,000, it doesn't work. So let's definitely change that. When you ran this, how old?
she was 30,
We'll
so
just say 91.
yeah, that works.
So perfect example, in order to pull money out of this, and that's a big conversation that we have with clients all the time, is they want to be their own bank, right? I want to put as much money in here as I can, and then I want to pull this money out. Well, you have to have the money in there before you can pull it out. And in this example, we didn't have enough money in there, so we're changing it to make that work. And the illustration that Gail ran, the lady was 33, which probably makes a little more sense anyway. So let me just double check everything. 33 to 55, we're putting in, no, 65, right? Yeah. 33 to 65, we're putting in $1,000 a month. Index strategy, disbursements. So we are at 53. We're going to, okay, thank you. At 53, we're going to pull out nothing. So 54 to 58, we're going to pull out $50,000 a year, right?
Correct.
And then at 65 to 90, in this example, 65 to 90, does that look right? Yeah.
Yeah,
We're going
it
to pull
does.
out her income. Hold on.
Yeah, that should be 58.
Yeah, I was like, something happened. And then we'll change this 65. Oh, I have to add a line here. All right. 54 to 58, we're going to pull out $50,000 a year. 59 to 65, we're going to solve for nothing because we're not pulling any money out. 66 to 90, we're solving for max, right? For income. Okay. I'm sure I just confused all of you, but it's okay. It's recorded so you can watch it again. Policy options, increasing monthly discounts. All right, so let's see if it works this time. Let's see if a 33-year-old can afford to put $1,000 a month away, pay for a kid's college in 20 years when they go to college. And this particular client, she doesn't have kids yet anyway, right, Gail?
Correct, but they're about 6 months into newlyweds, and they do plan on having children,
Yeah.
in the relatively short term.
Yeah. All right, let's see what we can do for her. All right, so if I pull up this illustration, can you guys see it, or do I need to reshare?
No, we can see it.
It's coming up. Okay. All right, let me zoom so you can actually see it. All right, so in this example, let's scroll all the way down here to this
Page 12.
beautiful, 12?
Page 12, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I know where it is, to this beautiful little illustration, right? In this example, in order to hold $1,000 a month putting into this policy on an increasing plan, she's going to have right at a $300,000 death benefit. So you can see here she's putting in $12,000 a year, which is $1,000 a month. In the beginning, she's got that death benefit, and it is increasing because that's what we told the illustration software to do. As we scroll through, when she decides that she wants to send her kids to college, She is 55 years old. She's got $451,000 in this account. And then she decides she's going to pull, it actually did it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, which is probably accurate, but she's going to pull $50,000 a year for 5 years for her kids' college education, right? You guys see that coming out. Then she's going to stop those distributions from age 60 to 65. And then she's going to turn it on again, and she's going to be able to pull $109,000 a year of income out tax-free to her, as long as she follows the guidelines from age 66 to age 90, which is huge. So if you think about that, we're pulling out income for 25 years, right? 66, 76, 86. Yeah. So we're pulling out what did I say? 108,950, 108,950 for 25 years. So we're pulling out $2.7 million of tax-free income. Plus, in this example, we're pulling out 250,000 of income for education. So we're pulling out literally 2.9 million, almost $3 million of tax-free income. And the total amount that we put into the policy was $396,000. That is crazy significant. So what I want you to see is, instead of having separate policies on parents and kids and splitting all of that up, you can put it all together and still accommodate your goals. I want to change this now, and I don't know what it's going to do, but I want to change this now. And I want to see if we just did the 500 a month, because remember, she was choosing to do 1,000 for herself or 500 for herself and 250 for each kid, right? Because she wants to pay for their college education. So if I just did that 500 a month, what is it going to do to her income? Before I do that, before I run that illustration, do you guys have any questions about what I just did? I know we kind of went back and forth for a second.
I just wanted to point out real quick too, on that right-hand side column, how her death benefit increases. So it started out at around 300, but when they go to college, and she's starting to pull out, now the death benefit is almost 750,000. And she's getting all that money, again, tax-free, and it doesn't count against the child on their FAFSA forms.
Yes, big deal that it doesn't count against the child for their college funding. So, if they qualified for grants or scholarships or things like that, they still will. It will not affect them from a financial perspective. And it's not going to be on their tax returns because it's not income, right? It's proceeds from a loan, and proceeds from a loan aren't taxable. Any questions before I show you what it looks like if we just did 500 a month on her?
Can we look at one more thing, Kimberly?
Yeah.
Commissions.
Oh, yeah. Commission on this one, and remember, I ran it increasing. So commission on this policy, if you look on the bottom left, first year commissionable premium is $3,300. If I run it at level, let me actually do that before we go forward. So we know, did you run yours level or increasing?
I ran it both ways to see, what was going to make the most sense. And I want to say increasing was in the client's best interest.
Yeah. And so that's another thing that obviously we always talk about and we always teach, and our team is do what's best for the client always do what's best for the client. But if it's the same or if it's similar, then you can look and see. So what we're talking about is here under policy options, we can change this to level as well. So let's see what a level illustration looks like, meaning the death benefit stays level until it has to be bumped up for the cash value piece. And I'll show you the difference of commissions, because it will be significant.
Right.
So anybody want to sing the Jeopardy music or whatever it is when you're waiting? All right. So you see this one, I'll pull it up because you might not see what I'm looking at, but scroll all the way down. Let's see. You said page 12?
Yeah.
When it loads. All right. So on this one, I'm just kidding. I'll zoom for y'all. On this one, on level, in order to hold the $12,000 a year that you're putting in, your death benefit has to be $830,000, right? So significantly higher. So your commissionable premium is almost it's a little over $9,000, significantly higher because your death benefit's higher, right? You guys get paid as life insurance agents on death benefits. So death benefits definitely higher on this one. Commissions are definitely higher on this one. We can still pull our $50,000 a year out in the middle of the policy to send our kids to college, but at the end of the day, she's going to get 94,000 instead of 108,000. And so that's the difference of what is best for the client. I think that the question is, it could be posed to the client. If you weren't doing a term as well, maybe they want the bigger death benefit from day one, right? We don't know when they're going to die. I don't know the answer to that question, but we can solve that problem by adding that term policy also. So we cover their death benefit need. And then, they have more income at the end of the day as well. So I would write increasing on this particular client also. So just to show you that. So now remember that it was 108,000 that we were pulling out as income for them. I'm going to change this back to increasing. And I'm going to say, all right, they're like, I don't care what you say, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm planning for my retirement with $500 a month. And then I'm taking that other $500 a month and I'm splitting it between my two kids. So what does that look like for them? So let me just double check that all of my numbers stayed the same across the board. I think they did. Yeah. Okay. So what does that look like for them? What is, how does that affect their income? Did you have a question? I don't think so. Okay. If you do, you can unmute again. Mhm.
Are you still gonna take out the 50,000 a year for college?
I am. It stayed in there. I'll show you in just a second. Oh, no, I'm not. You're right. So I need to fix that. Is that what you meant?
Well,
Yeah.
since it's already running, we can look at it both ways. Obviously, it's not going to perform nearly as well because you're drawing all that money and you're contributing significantly less, but we could look at it both ways.
Yeah, I just thought if you were not putting as much in for the kids for college, you wouldn't take the withdrawal from college. That's why I asked.
Well, if we're gonna put it in their own individual ones, we won't take it out of this one. So you're right. When it finally finishes calculating, I'll go in, I'll fix that really quick. So I'm gonna take out this. I'm gonna say remove this one, and then I can remove this one. And we're gonna say that she's pulling nothing out from 33 to 65, and then from 66 to 90 we'll solve for max. So thank you for that, Kathy. I'd have seen it in a minute, but and again, I don't know what this income, I mean, maybe it's going to be the same. Maybe it's better. I have no idea because I haven't looked at it, but we're going to see together. But I think it's why it's important you guys on your own, once you get appointed with these carriers, you need to learn how to run illustrations. It's not hard. Once you do it a couple of times, you get the hang of it. Then you're like, oh, I wonder how this works. I wonder what this looks like. Because, you can't calculate it by hand. You're not going to know. You might do them enough that you're like, oh, this is probably how it's going to look. But play with it because, everything's different. All right. So in this particular one, we're putting in $500 a month. She's taking the other $500 a month and she's funding her kids' education outside of that. So we're only using this to fund her retirement. So can she get the same amount here on a retirement plan? I don't know. Let's see. Page 12, Gail tells me. All right. Putting in $6,000 a year, which is obviously half. Her death benefit when starting out has to be 147,000 on the increasing. Obviously, that means that your commission is less because your death benefit's smaller, right? So 1,600 for commission. And when we pull out income, she's only pulling out $65,000 a year from age 65 or 66 to 90. So that is a significant difference. So if she's committed to planning for herself and her kids, it looks to me that it makes a lot more sense for her to do it all in her policy. Her kids still get their college taken care of, but she gets literally almost double the income at retirement than she does if she splits it up and she does that. You guys can think about like a snowball, right? If you've ever been in the winter anywhere, and you have this little tiny snowball, and then I'll let you unmute in a second if you have something to say. But you've got this little tiny snowball, and then as you roll it down the hill, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? But if you take 3 small snowballs, like you would, break this money up in 3 smaller pieces, it's going to take so much longer to grow. So it makes sense if we can put it all together that it's going to grow faster and give her more. So I think it's a great example. All right. Who has questions? I know I keep muting some people. So if you have questions, please unmute and ask them. Nobody? You've been trained? Awesome. I'm going to stop the share. So if you have questions, you can unmute yourself and you can ask me. But I think for me, and I've been doing this for 22 years, that's a really big aha moment, right? Like we have these conversations quite often, and I can usually convince the parents that they need to plan for, if they're choosing between planning for their retirement or their kids' education, I can usually convince them to plan for their retirement, because when I put it that way, it makes sense to them. But if I can't, it is math. It is not emotional, right? It is math. It is not emotional. You have all the control in your hands. You put all of the money in this particular situation, and it's going to work out better for everyone and still accomplish those goals. So if you listen to what they have to say, you put the stuff, in the illustration software, it's going to spit out whatever the truth is. Anybody have any questions about that particular example and understanding maybe not doing IUL on the kids, do it on the parents, and just add more? Run the illustrations both ways and see what you think about it. A couple of other things that I want to mention, and if you guys, some of you are seasoned agents on here, so if you have any little tips or tricks or conversations, then I'd love for you to share them with us as well. Octavio?
Good morning. How are you? Thank you so much for that illustration.
You're welcome.
I actually have a client. He earns pretty well. He's around 800, and he already has a term for 2 million. Fitting him in with the IUL, he has 3 small children. They're 8, 10, and 4. And I'm meeting with him on this coming weekend to see how we can put something together, because the kids are not in his term. He had his term from before. So will this be something that I can add on to him?
So let's talk about that. The term from before, does it have living benefits?
I don't believe so.
Then you should, assuming he's healthy, is he healthy?
Yeah.
If it were me, if the term he has doesn't have living benefits, I would replace the term first and foremost. I always use the dime. You guys have seen it. I'll pull it up really quick for you. For those of you that haven't seen it, let me just get into my back office and show you really quickly. I use this literally, and Gail can tell you, and Mary Kay and anybody else that's ever been in a F&A follow-up with me, I use this every single time. So in the back office on the left-hand side, if you go to resources, under financial needs analysis, there is a dime, and the dime will literally walk you through, obviously, client information, but debt, income, mortgage, education, retirement, childcare, and then proper protection. And when it's finished, it's stored for you here, right? In this thing, and you can go back and you can download it and put it back and do all of that. But ultimately, that's going to show you how much life insurance they need. So they're going to cover their debt. They're going to cover their income times 10 years at minimum. If you have a client with a 4-year-old and that's his youngest child, that means that, if something happened to him tomorrow, their kid would be financially okay based on life right now through age 14. I would probably extend that, right? Maybe I would cover income for 15 years or 16 years. So if they make $100,000 a year, instead of having $1 million coverage, I'd have 1.6. So that child never has to feel that income loss and the loss of a parent. But anyway, mortgage, if they have a mortgage, pay that off. And if they want to plan for their kids' education, pay that off. So figure out what that number is And that's what I would go back and recommend to them for their term policy. And, you know, obviously is the longest policy that they can afford is the one that I would do. Outside of that, on that term policy, you can do a rider. So number one, he's going to have living benefits, which he desperately needs if he ever had any issue. But number two, you can add a child rider on that. You can add that for up to, I think, 25,000 per child. If he ever has more children, as long as you call in and make those changes, those kids are covered. If he ever gets divorced and remarried, those kids are covered as long as you add them, like stepkids. Adopted kids are covered as long as you add them on those policies. So I think that's I think it adds like $11 or $12 a month to your term policy. I think that is a very cheap way to cover all of your kids without getting individual policies on your kids. Now, if he wants to plan for his kids' education, and he wants to plan for his kids' retirement, then I think that's the question where you say, how much can you afford to set aside on a monthly basis to reach some of these goals and dreams? If you do the full FNA, then you'll see, you know, maybe other areas of opportunity. But at minimum, you need to know how much he can afford to set aside. There's no reason in showing him a $1,000 a month IUL if he can only afford $100 a month, right? That's obviously a term policy. So I think you have to know your client. But yes, I think it's a great conversation to have with him depending on his goals. But at minimum, I would replace that term policy that he currently has, as long as he's healthy and insurable, so he has living benefits. And then you can add the kids to that as well.
Thank you so much. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime.
I'll need to ask, I'll do that privately because we need that over here. Get this training in Spanish. So
Well, you'll have to do it for me. Okay. So any other questions? Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. If you have anything that you want to share after my little tidbit, then do so. But I think it's important to know, if you have a client that, this is AIG specific, right? Gail has one right now. She's like, I got paid like $50. Like, what's up? I went, I don't know. Let me look at it, right? And I don't know what happened. And so we pulled it up, and it's showing that it's paying as earned. And I know this, Dara and I just went through the same situation, right? I know that it's paying as earned on this particular client because he paid his first month's premium with a credit card. AIG allows you to pay either the first month's premium or the annual premium with a credit card. If you allow your client to make that choice, it does not advance. It only pays as earned monthly, which is horrible, stinks. It is what it is. So remember that. If anybody ever asks me, oh, I see a credit card option, I'll just say that's not really an option. You're going to have to change it next month anyway, because that's the truth. If they pay their first month premium with a credit card, next month they're going to have to switch it to their bank account anyway. So just tell them it's not an option, and don't go forward with that. If they want to annual pay it on a credit card, fine, right? That'll obviously advance because they've paid everything in full. And some people might want to do that for points, but it's silly to play that game for a 1 month premium. If you look on there, sometimes it shows you like list bill, things like that. I always tell them it's not an option. Your only option is to annual pay or monthly bank draft, and that's the only options I give them, because you don't want these policies to lapse, right? And you know, people are human. If they get a bill in the mail, they might not pay it. If it's drafted from their checking account, most of the time it's going to come out of their checking account. Even if they didn't want it to, right? It's going to come out of the checking account, because it's just set up on that systematic payment. So take the emotion out of it, take the human error out of it, and put everything on bank draft that you can. Same conversation if they pay quarterly. If they pay quarterly, you're not going to get advanced. You'll be paid on that quarter premium, but you're not going to be paid on the next quarter premium until you get a next quarter premium, right? So just little things that you might know, you might not know, but pay attention to. And you know, sometimes you can't avoid it, because even if you fill out the bank draft information, you know, they might change it at the end. Just do your best to have those conversations, but at least you understand and you know what happened if maybe. So that's just a little weird one. Hopefully we can get them to change it. We're gonna keep harassing and begging and just say, remove it as an option.
I emailed Matt about it, so
I've already, and I had the conversation like a month ago, but just I think it's important, and it happened yesterday, so it was something relevant that I wanted to remind all of you guys just kind of how that worked. Does anybody else have any little idiosyncrasies or any little weird nuances that we should know about that maybe we don't, that you've realized with a carrier that you use quite often? Okay, good. Perfect. Well, if you do, please share them with us, because the more we share with each other, then the less we have to figure out the hard way, right? And make mistakes and figure it out. So, well, thank you guys for joining us today. Hope you learned something. I learned something.
Hey,
Jody,
Kimberly.
yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, first of all, it's great training, but also, every time I'm at one of our product providers, I'm just blown away by the fact, guys, that we have the best products in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, we really do. I mean, all these companies are phenomenal. I mean, these guys, Nexus, it's just, they're world class. They're so good, we hadn't figured out how good they are. I mean, that's how good they are. We just got to become good enough to sell their product. And they're not alone, man. Every company has these kind of products. And there's all these new companies, Emeritus and Mutual of Omaha, and all these that are just battling. They're convinced they're going to be our number one company. So let's go. I mean, really get in here and dive. Be proud of what we got. Just get in front of people. That's our whole job. So thank you. Great job today.
Yes, you're welcome. I'm glad you said that. So if you guys haven't hung up yet, let me see if I can figure out. Oh, pause. Hopefully I can do this. I want to show you, we just added ethos, right? And I showed this on our team the other day. So I want to show it to, anyway, Zach, are you still there? Zach,
Yes, I'm here.
Can you pull up that video and share it on here that we did the other day?
Possibly.
If I
Talking
make you
about the
co-host?
Raphael's video?
Yeah. So if you can do that, I just made you a co-host.
Which video are you talking about?
Huh?
Which video?
The one of Raphael that we just showed on our team call yesterday.
Yeah, let me see. You're going to have to turn on screen sharing and allow me to share.
I just made you co-host, so you should be able to share.
But you have to hit share, I think.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so before I hit share, let me kind of tell you guys what we're looking at. So one of the products and one of the companies that we just added was Ethos, right? And you guys have seen that out there. And that's something that, you can put a link in your bio, or they can scan a QR code or whatever, and they can go on and apply it. I want to show you, actually screen recorded Raphael's story the other day, because I think he does a fantastic job, obviously, of social media and talking to people and all of that, but also promoting his new Ethos link. So I just kind of want to give you an idea and show you what it looks like, and what he did, to give you an idea. So Zachy, if you can show it, then you can show it. If you can't, then
Here's hoping.
here's hoping.
Oh, where'd it go? Here we go.
So you see he's got his link tree and he's got his coverage.
I don't know why we don't have volume. Might be coming from me. Oh, maybe I have to share my video. They can go check him out, obviously. I don't know why my audio didn't share.
So I just want you guys to see that because it's a super easy, casual way to throw it out there. Everyone's not going to be an Ethos client. And they might not click the link in your bio. They might say, hey, Dina, I'd love to talk to you. Like, tell me about this, Ethos, or tell me about this life insurance or whatever. And then you can have a bigger conversation. But if you can't, at minimum, if it's out there and people are curious because they are and they don't want to talk to you because that's true, they can click the link in your bio. So we have so many tools at our fingertips. As Jody said, we have so many amazing product providers. You guys, especially on our team, know what a big fan I am of Anexus and their partnership with Nationwide and some of the products that they have. We talk about that quite often. But all of our carriers and all of our product providers are amazing. So use them. Talk to people on social media. You saw Raphael, like I was laughing the other day. I was like, he's in the gym with a hat on his head and a hoodie or a rain jacket or something on, like talking to like his phone, right? But people watch and they pay attention, they listen. So do it. Jody, I see you one more time.
Yeah, I was just going to say that if you do Ethos, guys, don't get in bed with any one company. I'm just going to give you an example. I have one of our guys who I know pretty well told me he doesn't like Ethos. So if you put Ethos, also put the fact that you could do other things too. Let them know they have choices. So,
Yeah, for sure. That's just that automated link in your bio thing, right? But use the tools that you have at your fingertips. You aren't captive. You have all of them. So use them. But anyway, thanks for staying and hanging out with me today. And as always, I'm Jody Humphrey, and just kidding.